Welcome to my Zen world. All right, that was fun. Here, Brandon. Thanks for the glasses. Well, we'll get rid of that. No need to see that. So we're here today to talk about our Grandpa Zinfandel, in particular the 2017. This is one of my favorite vintages of the Grandpa Zin that we've done in recent history. So I'll tell you a little bit about the vines. They're both grown on the west side of the Paso Robles appellation. One is actually a very tiny backyard vineyard, maybe an acre, and it's right above the Target store in Paso Robles, planted up on a hillside. And the other vineyard is up on the west side on your way to Nacimiento Lake. So it's off of Nacimiento Lake Drive, and it's a small vineyard again, maybe 3 acres total. And I don't get all the fruit off of that vineyard, but I get most of the fruit from their head-trained Zinfandel. These aren't really old vines. They're maybe 12, 14 years old at the time, but they're producing some really nice fruit. So what is head-trained? Head-trained, if you're driving up the 101 and you see the vines coming out of the ground, they're really short. They look like a bush, but they're shaped like a goblet. And the trunk is maybe 1.5 foot, 18 inches to the ground before it starts branching out. There's no trellis. They're just kind of wide open. And for whatever reason, that type of pruning, that type of growth just produces some really, really nice flavors in Zinfandel. You know, you could argue exactly why. The light, the orientation, it's getting different sun throughout the day, but kind of self-regulates itself. A lot of the vines you see right off Highway 101, they're dry farms, so they don't get any water during the growing season. The 2 vineyards I'm buying from, they may get a little bit. They do have drip irrigation, so in years where it's drier, they can put some water on early in the season. But they're both on that Adelaida soil, that rock, that white rock. It's like a sponge. If you put it in the water, it'll just soak water up like crazy and hold it during the year. So that's how the vines can get by without getting water throughout the year. So anyway, why do we call it Grandpa Zen? Well, Kim's great-great-grandfather was one of the founders of the town of Harmony. He owned property here, and he helped to establish the creamery. It was a challenge creamery, and the whole area here on the coast was settled by Italian-Swiss dairy farmers. So they would get their milk together, and it would be brought. They'd bring it in here to town, and they would make cheese out of it. So the chapel that's down there right now has 18 inches of cork in the wall to keep it nice and cool. And since we're on the coast here, it doesn't get very warm in there at all, and that's how they would age their cheese. So back to our Zin. We basically bring the fruit in, crush it, let it sit for maybe 24 hours before we start fermentation. We use Pasteur Red on this, and we control the temperature. So we don't want fermentation getting much above 85 degrees. We think it helps to trap some of this, just the great berry flavors that Zinfandel has. As far as punch downs and whatnot, 2 or 3 a day. We're trying to extract some color out, but not a lot of tannin, and it's kind of a balance. I'm not trying to make a huge wine here, so we're not harvesting as late as a lot of the Zin people here do. We're harvesting at maybe 25 bricks, 25 and a half, and we get to 26 sometimes when it's a crazy year. But I'm trying to keep the alcohol under 15%. Or right around, 15, not much over, because I just don't like the flavors I get. I think when you get above 26 bricks, you start getting some raisin. Zinfandel does not ripen really evenly, so on a cluster you can have a few raisins and some green berries and perfectly ripe red berries. And so the art of harvesting Zin is to get it while it's mature, but it doesn't have a bunch of raisins, and you can imagine the raisin flavor translates into the wine when you're having it. So to me, when I have a Zinfandel that's like that, I'm kind of getting a port character, and I just don't care for it. To me, Zinfandel's just all about the fruit. All about the fruit, nothing but the fruit all the time. So anyway, let's pour our 17 here. Little lighter color than a lot of the Zins that come out here, but again, I'm not trying to make a monster wine. I'm trying to find the finesse that's in Zinfandel. So we just don't leave it on the vine as long as a lot of other people, and so we don't get that intense, just almost black color. So let's see what I find on the nose. Yeah. So to me, I'm getting, I can remember being younger in college and going up to Northern California on camping. And there's areas there where, you know, they just got those briar blackberry bushes. And when they get really, really ripe, this is the aroma that I love to find in my wine. If you've ever been up there and experienced that, that's, when I talk about briar fruits, that's what I'm talking about. Raspberries, blackberries that are really ripe on that bush. Another character I get, kind of typical of Zin, is just this little bit of a black pepper hint. I think it comes a little bit from the stems of the Zinfandel, so I'm not, if I really smell the black pepper coming off the back of the crusher when we're processing the fruit, I'll actually add some stems back into the fermentation to try to get some of that flavor out, because I really, really enjoy it. All right, so what kind of flavors do I get off this? Dark berry again, just blackberry, maybe a little bit of plum, just a little hint of black pepper towards the end of the palate there, and a little bit of spice, but a very, very easy finish and easy tannins on this wine. Very smooth, very soft. Barrel aging on this wine. All this wine sees is neutral barrels. Never a brand new barrel, ever. Because like I said earlier, Zin's all about the fruit. Fruit and nothing but the fruit. Typically my Zins don't age very long, 8 years, 9 years, and then they're going to start losing that berry character. And I'm okay with that, because it's what I like. Anyway, so what are we going to have with Zinfandel? One of my favorite things is red pasta. So lasagna, spaghetti meatballs, anything you know, on that Italian side would be just wonderful with this. I also love hamburgers with Zinfandel, especially if they're your little barbecue sauce, ribs. And one of my favorite things is a really nicely done smoked brisket. Anyway, cheers to everybody, and here's to Grandpa.